Thank you. And again, before we start, can I remind members, please, to mute phones and laptops so that we don't hear pinging going on throughout the meeting. Thank you. Mr. French, are we ready to go? Thank you very much. In that case, members, welcome to the meeting today, 28th of September. Moving on to item 1. Mr. White, do we have any apologies, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, members. We have one apology from Councillor Coulson this afternoon, and for the purposes of streaming, I can confirm there are 30 members of council in the chamber. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. White. Item 2, then, any declarations of interest. Do members have any personal or disclosable pecuniary interests to declare, please? I see none, Mr. White.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 3 for the minutes. Can we please agree as a true and correct record the council meeting for 20th of July 2021? Have a proposer, please. Thank you, Councillor Pearce, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Ball. And is everybody happy that I sign those as an accurate record? Thank you. Item 4, apologies. Various bits here. Is business brought forward by the Mayor, and on this occasion I would allow Councillor Musgrave to address the council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not sure if I should remove my mask to be heard more clearly or not, but I'll be guided. I'll take that off. Thank you. I'm suspicious I've been caught a bit unawares. I meant to be just attending on this occasion and slipping away very unobtrusively at the end of this session, but I've got a feeling that one or two things have been lined up. I also would just like to comment, thank you for allowing my granddaughter to be here, our granddaughter to be here with us today. I am reminded that it was when I was mayor at my at the mayoral service, it was another of our granddaughters that ran riot, created havoc by constantly trying to alert the rector to her immediate needs. It was a very amusing situation for me anyway. Onwards. I was first elected in, I almost hate to admit this, in 1991. So it's been a pretty long haul. There was one break, a short break of 4 years, when I had to stand down due to a very difficult employer who didn't like me being a member of the council. Apart from that, I have served right throughout, and I am very pleased to be here today. It is a relief, I have to confess, a slight relief for me. I found the last few months the work has become fairly intolerable, so I'm greatly relieved to be able to stand down and perhaps enjoy reading about the council activities from afar. I don't really want to say very much more. I'd like to just thank you for allowing me to speak, and I do wish this council the very best in the future. I really have been very proud to have been a member of this council. I think, for bearing in mind our size, we have a remarkable achievement we've created and made a remarkable achievement. It's surviving so long. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Councillor. And I would like to, before I invite others to speak, to give my personal thanks to you and your support while I was Mayoress to Councillor Marsh. And you're welcome since I've been serving on this council. Councillor Crozier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the second half of the ward member for Biodiversity in Golworthy, it gives me great pleasure in proposing a vote of thanks to you, Robert. It's highly unlikely that I will serve 27 years as a councillor, given I started at quite a senior age already. I will be 100 if I do it. But it's been a pleasure to serve with you this last 2.5 years. I know you've had a few difficulties recently, but you've always been a wise counsel to me, and I've appreciated your knowledge. Not only that, the people of Biodiversity in Golworthy have also recognised you as a stalwart advocate for them. And with that, I give you my thanks from them. And as far as the council goes, I'm sure the council will join me in wishing you the best in the future. I know you're about to move as well, which is always a big strain on family life, and I hope it is successful. So I will close with those few words, that good luck for the future, and thanks for your enormous service to this council.
Thank you, Councillor Crozier. Councillor Cheadle. Thank you, Councillor Cheadle. Before we move on to the rest of the agenda, I've just got a couple of things I would like to say, please. I'd like to say thank you to those that supported my charity golf match on the 24th. We raised just over £800 on the day, so I'm extremely pleased with that. And a couple of other events that we've got coming up. We have the 150th anniversary celebrations for Oak Rail. Councillor Ball can I ask you, so because you will be far more up on the detail with that than I will be.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes. So this weekend on Saturday and Sunday, Sunday is the actual 150th anniversary of when the railway first came to Oakhampton, and it's in the 150th year that the service is coming back. So we thought that we'd do a celebration around that 150th. Hopefully you'll come over. On Saturday we have all sorts of events going on in the Charter Hall. One or two of us will be dressed up. Yeah, like me. Where we'll be reenacting the Act of Parliament. Guess who's Mr. Speaker? We'll also be having a Victorian tea party. Mike's just shook his head. And there'll be refreshments and stuff. So please come out. And on Sunday, we're going to reenact the handover ceremony that happened 150 years ago. So we'd love you to come over and join in the celebration. I'll speak to this side as well. So thank you for allowing me to say that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. I never would have remembered all of that. And since we're in the spirit of getting everybody out and joining together and meeting up again after the recent 18 months or so, there is a barn dance on the 9th of October in Tavistock in the Red and Black Club. Yes, I'm getting a nod for that one. And also we have a community celebration in Oakhampton in Simmons Park on the 22nd to the 24th of October. It would be lovely to see members attend that as well. Thank you for your indulgence with that. So moving on then to item 6, public questions, deputations and petitions. Mr. White.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've received one petition in accordance with our scheme, and because of capacity associated with the current pandemic, the petition organisers have asked if I can read a statement on their behalf. So through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Dear West Devon councillors, regarding the motion to council in support of the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill, the CEE Bill. The West Devon CEE Bill Alliance wanted to find out how others in the area feel about the climate and nature crisis, and if they support the CEE bill. To reach people, we started a petition, and more importantly, over the last few weeks, we've been listening to and talking with people out and about in the borough. The main view from people we listened to was that as well as working to bring developing countries on board, we need to be doing more in this country so that we get on track to meet our own targets. These people are doing what they can at a household level to reduce their impact. They were keen to support the CEE bill, and for many it was good to learn they have a means to do so through our democratic process. Some people were most concerned about the vast quantity of emissions from China. They felt making reductions here is insignificant. As you can imagine, this was a good discussion point, as per head of population, China is well down the list with emissions. In addition, a vast quantity of emissions produced by China are due manufacture of goods that countries such as us import. When import/export emissions are put into calculations, this makes developed countries like the UK even more responsible for being leaders in change. Sadly, a significant number of people had no hope and talked about it being too late. There was also the view that nothing can be done to change the activities of large companies. It was good to be able to talk with these folk about how government can regulate companies and that governments can and should be working together through international meetings such as the imminent COP26. People are interested in the role that the Climate and Nature Assembly would play if the CEE bill is enacted. The Assembly would ensure a true cross-section of the population are informed and consulted about options and contribute to government strategy. The rigour in the formation and methodology of the Assembly means it would complement, not replace, the existing role of government advisors. Many children and young people spoke with us. They were all concerned about the future and all had ideas about what we should do. Some were anxious, many were hopeful. Under 16-year-olds can't sign a petition. They wrote messages on paper leaves to attach to our tree of hope. Here are just a few. It's our job to fix this, and we need to realise. Save the fish and coral reefs. We must save our world now. Plant more trees. Let's not wreck the earth. You need to care. It's my future that will be affected. Start doing stuff now. Humans are destroying the world they need to survive. And a quote that sums up the views of so many adults is, "Please support climate action. We only have this planet for our children to inherit." We ask you to vote for the motion to support this bill. Your role in giving MPs a mandate to take action and in passing on the concerns and views of voters is so valuable. Thank you for your work. With best wishes, David Williams, Sean Albury, Chris Simpson, Graham Palmer, Sarah Palmer, and Jackie Hudswell. And there's a petition which is signed by 426 people living in the borough over the age of 16.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Moving on to item 7, we have no questions on notice received from members. And item 8, motions on notice. We have had one motion on notice received from Councillor Daniel. Councillor Daniel, would you like to move your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill, what is it and why am I asking West Devon Borough Council to support this? I don't need to reiterate...
Councillor Daniel, this is just to move the motion.
Oh, is it?
Please.
Okay,
thank you.
Okay. I would like to move the motion on section 8 of your paper. Would you like me to read it out?
You can do that as part of your introduction in a minute. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay.
Do we have a seconder for that motion, please?
Yes, I'll second that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Councillor Daniel, you may continue. Apologies.
Can you hear me? So, what is the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill, known as CEE, and why am I asking West Devon to support this parliamentary bill? I don't need to reiterate the climate and biodiversity breakdown that's happening all around us because we all are now aware of it, but it is the reason why I am asking you to support this motion. The bill is currently making its way through Parliament. If accepted, it will provide government with a legally binding framework that recognises our responsibility to reduce the UK's carbon emissions and ecological degradation urgently and fairly. If enacted, it would ensure that the nature emergency is addressed alongside the climate crisis with an urgent, joined-up, whole-of-government approach via a new legally binding climate target. It would ensure that UK nations adhere to nationally legally binding carbon budgets set each year, not every 5 years. The bill would ensure that the UK tackles the nature emergency by imposing strict nature targets so that by 2030, nature is visibly and measurably on the path of recovery, in line with the global goal for nature. The bill also ties this nature target to international pledges, locking them into law. This will ensure that the UK comprehensively fulfills its obligations under the new UN Convention on Biological Diversity and meets the commitments set out in the Leaders' Pledge for Nature. The bill will ensure that the UK government draws up an emergency strategy using the advice of a temporary climate and nature assembly, which we've just heard about in our petition. The assembly would be made up of representatives of the UK population to advise and guide government on the fairest way forward. The assembly would work directly with the Climate Change Committee and the Joint Nature Conservation Committee before the strategy was laid before and approved by Parliament. The bill would ensure that the UK's most vulnerable communities are protected and positively impacted by the proposals in the strategy, and that financial support and retraining is offered to those people currently working in high-impact industries. And it would ensure that the government produces annual interim targets in order to achieve the bill's objectives. There is presently nothing legally binding for any UK government to hold them to account for progress or lack of progress towards mitigating climate breakdown and the ecological emergency we face. Support for this bill would assist in producing that legally binding framework. So I ask all my fellow councillors to show their support for this motion, which is as follows. This Council has formally recognised the Climate and Biodiversity Emergency, May 2019, has signed the Devon Climate Declaration, July 2019, and has a Climate Change and Biodiversity Strategy, the West Devon Borough Council Climate Strategy. This Council is committed to actions to change behaviour, to address the causes of this situation and mitigate the impacts. In line with the above, this Council supports the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill proposed by a coalition of scientists, academics and lawyers, with the aim of bringing the UK's climate policy into one with evolving scientific evidence. The Council resolved to 1. Support the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill, 2. Inform the local media of their decision, 3. Write to local MPs asking them to support the bill. 4. Write to the CEE Bill Alliance, the organisers of the campaign for the bill, expressing its support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Members who would like to lead the debate? Councillor Edmonds.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please excuse my back leader. Let me start by saying that climate change is a priority for me and has been a priority for this Council since it unanimously declared a climate emergency in May 2019. I note the good intentions of the Climate and Ecology Emergency Bill and the increased awareness it brings. However, the bill seeks to change the way Parliament works by seeking to develop an unaccountable citizens' assembly to decide policy instead of ministers elected to deliver the people's priorities. The government is already taking real action in tackling climate change, with legally binding targets to reach net zero emissions by 2050 and plans for an environment bill which will set legally binding targets aimed at halting species decline, restore nature and biodiversity, tackle air pollution, establish an independent office for environmental protection, cut plastic use, and revolutionise how we recycle. Why then? Why then do we need to consider an alternative bill, which could have future consequences on the way democracy works in the UK? Madam Mayor, I fully support the Council's Climate Change Action Plan and working with our partners to play a leading role in the Devon Climate Emergency Partnership to ensure we do everything possible to mitigate the effects of climate change across the borough and the county of Devon. On a national basis, we need to hold our MPs to account to ensure that climate change legislation is enacted in a timely and effective manner. Supporting the Emergency Climate and Ecology Bill, I believe, will result in political confusion and distract us from driving through the changes we so urgently require. And for that reason, Madam Mayor, I will not be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edmonds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that from the petition that Mr. White read out earlier, that we have got a lot of support for this bill from our residents who have really thought about it and have been out talking to people in town and talking to people in the streets for quite a long time now. And also, I believe that Devon County Council has committed their support for this bill as well. And I think as West Devon Borough Council, we have a responsibility to also support it. Thank you.
Councillor Daniels, can I remind you that you only have the right to reply as you've already spoken on this? Members, do we have any further debate? Councillor Ridges, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, councillors. I really welcome the Councillor Daniel's concern for the climate change, which I'm sure is echoed by all the members in this chamber. In my long history with West Devon, we've been very quick to act on this particular area. In particularly recently, we've declared a climate change emergency back in July 19. We've worked very quickly with our partners at Devon County Council and other authorities and have adapted a climate change strategy, putting activities and influence on the ground. We've always been very practical in the way we work in West Devon in terms of climate change, and we will continue to do so with those practical initiatives that the council can influence, such as being a leading recycling authority. We've forged reduction and reuse initiatives as well as being one of the leading authorities, probably for the last 20 years at lower tier in recycling. And what I'm really pleased to see coming in a future agenda item is the developing practical and workable solutions for the natural environment, which is part of our plan for West Devon, which I will be speaking to later. We talked about the national policy coming through in the government bill, in the environment bill, which sets lots of targets, plans and policies for the natural environment, talks about waste, resource efficiency, nature and biodiversity. It's really exhaustive and it goes a long way. And I think with the current government's influence behind it and their push on climate change, even when talking to the Americans and influencing them, as a body, they're right behind it. And this is the way the system works in the UK. It's fully democratic, and our MPs are responsible for it. And our MPs are responsible to us as residents, and we have the opportunity to move them, kick them out through the ballot box if we don't like it. What concerns me is I feel this motion steps back from that fully democratic process by introducing a third party. I support the heightened issue and the awareness raised by Councillor Daniel, and I'm really pleased that she's brought this issue to us and in front of us. But I feel with the strong government commitment and this concern about the third-party influence and moving away from our fully accountable democratic process, concern about climate change, but I won't be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Drury.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I must admit I do have a problem with this motion. I think the problem that I have stems from the fact that the motion, I think, fails to recognise the steps that we as a council have taken in adopting our climate change and biodiversity strategy. I fully support the work of the council and our officers to deliver practical results, working in close collaboration with partner organisations at a local and regional level. The council's climate change and biodiversity strategy has over 36 specific actions, and also recognise the great work of local councillors as they support rural communities, promote active travel, listen to farmers, support local producers, and work alongside environmental groups. I think the motion also fails to recognise the groundbreaking work of Devon County Council, including the Devon Climate Emergency Partnership, the Devon Climate Declaration Statement of Intent, and the Devon Citizens Assembly, which is due to report back soon. We resolve, and we should resolve, to continue to work closely with Devon County Council, other district councils, and our joint local plan partners, Plymouth City Council. The motion also fails to recognise the excellent work that has been undertaken at a national level. The UK national government has halved emissions in the last 3 decades, cut our dependence on coal by 93% since 2015, and has developed a 10-point plan for the green industrial revolution, which will create thousands of high-skilled jobs across the country, whilst making it easier and cheaper for people to go green. There are also a number of items of legislation that have come into effect or will be coming into effect, which will, for example, set a legally enforceable route to zero carbon by 2050. Madam Mayor, if I may, I would like to suggest an amendment to the motion, which I think should take into account that work and the work that has been done. And if you would allow me to, I will put that motion in front of the Council as follows. This Council has formally recognised the climate and biodiversity emergency in May 2019, has signed the Devon Climate Declaration July 2019, and has a climate change and biodiversity strategy. This Council is committed to actions to change behaviour to address the causes of this situation and mitigate the impacts. In line with the above, this Council supports the need for a strong legislative framework that embeds the government's targets in law, enabling us as supportive players to plan and develop our future trajectories to fit in with those targets. Council therefore resolves to: 1. Support the government's Environmental Bill 2021 and the Climate Change Act 2008 as amended in 2019. 2. Inform the local media of their decision. 3. Write to local MPs asking them to support the Environment Bill. And 4. Continue to support Devon County Council through the Devon Climate Emergency Partnership. I'd be happy if someone was prepared to second that amendment, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Crozier, are you happy to second that? Do any members wish to debate the amendment? Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not so much the debate. I just wondered if I could have a repeat of the line which starts in line with the above. Just that one sentence, please.
Certainly, Councillor. In line with the above, this Council supports the need for a strong legislative framework that embeds the government's targets in law, enabling us as supportive players to plan and develop our future trajectories to fit in with those targets.
Thank you.
Any debate, members? Councillor Cheadle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to clear up in my own mind where we're going with this. I was listening very carefully to Councillor Jury, and I think my interpretation of what was said was that, in a sense, we don't need to support the recommendation that's in front of us today because the government has already taken steps to effectively replicate it in their climate bill. In the principal objective of the proposal in front of us today, as far as I see it, is for the government to be bound legally by the statements they make about their work on reducing climate impacts, and that is implicit in the bill that the government themselves are bringing forward. So, in a sense, we don't need to support this because there's a better one coming along in a minute. Have I interpreted that correctly?
I think you're correct, Councillor Cheadle, though I would say I think this has preempted the CEL bill because it's already on its third reading, as I understand it.
Members, any further debate? In that case, Mr. White, can we have a vote on the amendment, please?
Thank you, members. Those in favour of the amendment, please. That's 20 in favour of the amendment. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Those against, please. With 6 against, thank you. That therefore amendment is therefore declared carried and therefore becomes a substantive motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. White. For my own clarity, is that the end of that item then?
No, it's the opportunity now for further debate on the now substantive motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Members, over to you. In that case, members, we can take the vote on that then, please. Those in support, Mr. White?
Thank you very much. Those in favour of the now substantive motion? That's 25 in favour. Thank you very much. Those against? With 6 against. So for the record, that should be 24 in favour with 6 against, making 30. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. White. Thank you, members. We can now move on then to item 9, which is the committee minutes, starting with the overview and scrutiny committee meeting of the 22nd of June 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on the 22nd of June 2021 be received and noted. They are ONS 1 to ONS 9 and can be found between pages 7 and 11. If I may have a seconder, please.
I think take your pick, Mr. White.
Sorry. Happy to second that, Madam Mayor.
Those are duly noted. Thank you, members.
Thank you. And B, the audit committee meetings from the 29th of June and the 7th of September 2021. Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the minutes of the meetings of the Audit Committee held on the 29th of June 2021 and the 7th of September 2021 be received and noted. They are AC1 to 85 and 86 to 87 and can be found between pages 13 and 15 and 17 and 18 respectively. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And finally, the Hub Committee meeting from the 21st of September 2021.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the Hub Committee held on the 21st of September 2021 be received and noted, with the exception of recommendations HC 2421, HC 2521, HC 2721, HC 2821, HC 2921, and HC 3021. They are HC 1921 to HC 3121 and can be found between pages 1 and 7 of the separate circulation. Could I have a seconder, please?
Second. Happy to second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Edmonds.
In respect of recommendation HC 2421, members will be aware that the plan for West Devon will be the subject of a later agenda item. In respect of recommendation HC 2521, I propose the following: that Council be recommended to 1. Enter into a collaboration agreement with the Devon and Torbay Residential Charge Point Scheme for the installation of electric vehicle charging points. 2. Approve the potential sites, as listed in paragraph 1.3 of the published agenda report, as the locations for the installation of electric charging points. And 3. Enter a lease with the appointed supplier for a 10-year period. If I could have a seconder, please.
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, members.
Therefore, members all in favour of the recommendation, please show. That's 28 in favour. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In respect of recommendation HC 2721, I propose the following: that the Council be recommended to 1. Set the strategic intention to raise council tax by the maximum allowed in any given year without triggering a council tax referendum to endeavour to continue to deliver services. The actual council tax for any given year will be decided by council in the preceding February. 2, adopt the principle of using funding in the business rates retention reserve to smooth out the anticipated volatility in business rates income over the next 3 years, as set out in section 3.19 of the published agenda report. The volatility is due to business rates baseline reset anticipated in 2023-24. This will mean that the council will have a negative revenue support grant and the predicted loss of business rates pooling gains at the same time. 3, continue to respond to government consultations on business rates reform. 4, continue to actively lobby and engage with the government, Devon MPs, South West councils, and other sector bodies such as the District Councils Network and the Rural Services Network for a realistic business rates baseline to be set for the council for 2023 onwards when the business rates reset happens. 5, continue to lobby in support of the government eliminating negative revenue support grant in 2022-23 and thereafter, and continue to lobby for rural services delivery grant allocations which adequately reflect the cost of rural service provision. And 6, note the forecast budget gap for 2022-23 of £78,731, 1% of the current net budget of 7.3 million, and the position for future years. If I could have a seconder, please.
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Thank you, members. Therefore, those members in favour of the recommendations? That's 29 in favour. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Drury.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In respect of recommendation HC 2821, I propose the following. That council be recommended to utilise funding of £190,000 from the COVID-19 losses earmarked reserve in 2021-22 to fund COVID-19 expenditure in 2021-22 and the projected net losses on car parking income in 2021-22. If I could have a seconder, please.
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Thank you, members. Those in favour of the recommendations, please show. Thank you, members. That's 29 in favour. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In respect of recommendation HC 2921, I propose the following. That council be recommended to increase the 2021-22 budget for community project grants from £15,000 to £30,000, with the additional £15,000 being funded from the New Homes Bonus Reserve. If I could have a seconder, please.
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Thank you, members. All in favour, please show. Thank you, members. That's 28 and unanimous in favour of the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In respect of recommendation HC 3021, I propose the following. That council be recommended to fund the cost of temporary planning staffing resources of £60,400, the Borough Council share of the cost, from the additional planning income generated in 2021-22 as set out in section 2.6 of the presented agenda report. If I could have a seconder, please.
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All in favour, please, members. Thank you, members. That's 28 and unanimous for the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drury. Item 10 then, members, is a plan for West Devon. Councillor Drury, would you like to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members, in front of you are the papers relating to the plan for West Devon. A document and a plan which has now been in the making, as we all know, for a number of months. I hope that you will agree that the plan itself is an impressive and useful document, framing the themes and objectives that we as a council feel are important, and that this plan should inform our work over coming years. Attached to the plan are the thematic delivery plans, which identify specific tasks, timelines and targets that we will be working on over the next 3 years. It's important to recognise, I think, that the plan itself is not and will not be perfect. It will not do everything that everyone wants it to do, and it will remain a dynamic working document which can be amended and improved via the Hub advisory groups as times go on and priorities change and become clearer. Hub lead members and their advisory groups will have an important role to play here, delivering the plan, monitoring performance and horizon scanning to identify future issues. At this point, can I thank all of those officers, members, consultees and partner organisations who have had input into the plan. This has been a team effort ably coordinated by Mr. Hawke and Mr. Powell and their teams. I was especially pleased to note the inclusion of photographs showcasing West Devon, all taken and submitted by residents, and I thank them for their work and their permission to use their pictures. It is especially pleasing to note feedback from Devon County Council, noting the synergy between our plan and their emerging plan, and this bodes well for future cooperation on a number of important issues. The recommendations ask that members note the results of the consultations with partner organisations, other councils, and most importantly, the public. The responses have been summarised and distributed to members last week. I'd be the first to acknowledge that the timescale is too short to enable members to have fully digested the whole range of feedback at this point. But the interpretation that we have carried out so far indicates broad agreement and support for a number of our priorities. The next step is for the advisory groups to delve into the responses more deeply and use the feedback to help shape future priorities and plans as the plan itself develops and takes shape. There are a number of interesting responses from groups and individuals within the feedback, and we also intend to talk to some of them in more detail to explore their ideas further. Funding for this plan is included in the report and has been carefully considered, and commitment to the resources needed is an important part of the plan itself. Much of the funding allocated is coming from earmarked reserves or reserves that have been set up for this very purpose. The plans are considered to be affordable and will still leave the Council with significant and adequate reserves. The financial plan will be monitored alongside the delivery plan and also considered as part of the annual budget setting process as we move forward. Members, you have all had input into this plan. The draft has been well received and it really provides us with a framework to work on over the next few years. It provides us with targets to which we can hold lead members to account and indeed the senior leadership team to account. I commend the plan to you and seek your support to carry it forward, and will take any questions at this stage that members might have.
Thank you, members. Councillor Cheadle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too welcome this plan and congratulate those and in fact all of the council in their participation in bringing it forward. I do have a concern that we are yet to escape the clutches of COVID financially, and there are a number of issues we're dealing with at the moment which will put pressure on our finances. I think that's largely agreed by all. The plan for West Devon itself commits us to spend a significant amount of money in addition to these as yet unquantified pressures on some of our other services caused by COVID. And for those that are close observers of the medium-term financial position, there are some fairly large potholes in the road between now and the next 4 or 5 years, particularly in sort of the year after next. And these all come together at roughly the same time. And I was concerned that effectively we would be able to fully commit to the plan for West Devon and ride out the storms of these other pressures, some of which we haven't quite got a handle on yet. So I thought it would be valuable to seek the assurance of our financial officer, Mrs. Buckle, that she is confident that we can ride the storms that are ahead and commit fully to the plan for West Devon.
Thank you. Mrs. Buckle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So yes, the thematic delivery plans require resources of 858,000 over a 3-year period. So that is actually less than 300,000 per annum of the plan. Looking at the breakdown of the 858,000, 190,000 of that is coming out of the Recovery and Renewal Plan budget of 200,000, which the Council already approved back in February. A further 132,000 is coming from existing budgets. So over 320,000 of the 858 within the plan is coming from existing budgets already approved. So that's over a third. There would be cost pressures next year of 122,000, and in year 2, 168,000. And those are an affordable level of cost pressures. Looking at the amount that would need to be funded from reserves, so the amount coming from one-off funds from reserves, that would be 246,000. Now, the Borough Council's earmarked reserves and unearmarked reserves currently total over 7.5 million. And within those reserves, we do have, for example, £500,000, which is currently uncommitted in a financial sustainability reserve. We also have another £500,000 set aside for a COVID losses earmarked reserve. Looking forward to the spending review, we will be sending in our consultation response by the 30th, so Thursday, and we will be making the case for District Council financing very clear within that consultation response. And we will be asking government if they can continue with the New Homes Bonus Scheme at least the current level of funding which we receive, which is 300,000. And we will be making the case for things like the Sales Fees and Charges Scheme, which at the moment we only have assurances from the government that they will meet any losses within the first 3 months of this financial year. So in answer to Councillor Cheadle's question, I am confident that the resource requirements of the delivery plans are affordable. And with regard to any future financial unknowns, we have recently published the Council's unaudited accounts, which are in the process of being audited. But as those accounts show, the Council does have a good degree of financial resilience to meet any future financial unknowns. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Buckle. Councillor Ball. Okay, thank you. Members, any other questions? In that case, Councillor Jury, would you like to move the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move the recommendations. There are 5 recommendations as shown on page 1 of the supplementary documentation that was sent around with the agenda packs.
And a seconder, please.
I'm happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Members, we are now open for debate. Councillor Edmonds.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the lead member for resources, I would also like to thank the officers for all their hard work in developing the plan. I must also thank all the members who have played a full part in its development. The plan for West Devon sets out an ambitious vision for the future of the borough and puts the well-being of our residents, businesses and natural environment at the centre of our plan. Now is the time to bring the plan alive and begin work on the actions set out in the delivery plans for the benefit of all. To achieve this requires financial investment on behalf of the Council, and I'm satisfied that the proposed budget covering the next 3 years is affordable. And as we have heard, this is also the opinion of our Strategic Financial Director. As with any good plan, regular monitoring will be ongoing to ensure the plan remains on course to achieve its aims and objectives. I'm therefore, Madam Mayor, supporting the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edmonds. Councillor Hipsey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, may I add my congratulations to the team behind the
plan for West Devon. It is an excellent piece of work. Very impressed with that. I'd also like to thank the leader and Councillor Edmonds for anticipating a lot of what I was about to say. However, I would bring members' attention to the fact that while we've been formulating this plan, the public have been consulted. Consultation's been underway of some complexity, it has to be said. And again, I congratulate the officers concerned with trying their best and doing very well at picking the bones out of this, the results of these this consultation, and making the best use of that data. Members were sent a document on Friday, in fact, which actually lays out all the results from the consultation, and hopefully people have been able to see that. As I said, it's a very long and complex set of results. There's a lot of, well, quite frankly, rubbish in there, but there's a lot of very real jewels if you take the time to look. I recognise the fact that in many ways, because the consultation's been running in parallel with the development of the plan, not all those jewels have been able to be taken out and embedded within the plan itself. But we still have time to do that. As the leader pointed out, this is a dynamic document. We still have time, we can still build on it, we can still improve it. And that can only be done through the lead members and advisory group structure. So I would urge all members that are involved in all those advisory groups to really look very, very carefully at what the public have to say to make sure that that goes into our plan. And it therefore represents exactly what our constituents expect the council to be doing in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hipsey. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following on from Councillor Hipsey's comments, I too thank everybody who's been involved in pulling the document together. I think I agree, the advisory groups are really critical on this, and the whole point of a plan is to be that it's something that you use as a reference, used as a framework, but it's not the be-all and end-all. To mix my metaphors, it's a vehicle that we can use to go forward. But we will recognise that sometimes we might need to change what we've got. I mean, the six sort of key points, I think, have nailed where we are heading, but I think we need to also be brave enough to accept that we might need to tweak them, might need to change them. But having the advisory groups working with the relevant hub members gives, if you like, the rank and file members an opportunity to have that input and have that influence on the plan as it goes forward and we start to enact it. And I think the most encouraging thing is that from the evidence I've seen of the feedback, and I must admit I haven't gone through it with a fine-tooth comb, but there's overall support for what we're trying to do, which I think is encouraging. And I think it's really important that we continue to engage with the public in the different sectors within the public, business and leisure and sort of households, that keep that communication open. That's really key for making sure that this plan works, because we need their continual input to help us take this forward. But I'll be fully supporting this. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Sellis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd mirror what previous councillors have just said, and I think that this is a real opportunity for us to work constructively, and hopefully we'll be able to make our council more aware of how we can attract income. I do listen, as we all do, to residents, and they're heartily fed up with council tax being increased. And I think this, what we have to be mindful of is how we work in an efficient and effective way, so that hopefully we won't have to reduce council tax too much. We realise the pressures that we have, but hopefully we'll be able to work in a more effective way, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sellis. Councillor Ridges.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What I was particularly pleased to see in this plan was its granularity. We see lots of these plans that come up before us, and they are, well, I do in my business role, and there's a big vision to it. But actually, we had a lot of smart, measurable objectives to it, and they were costed and they were timely. And to use that awful word, there's KPIs against them, so we can see what we are achieving, and members and anybody responsible for delivering on the plan, you know, can see where we're short, where we're overachieving, and I think that's really, really important in a plan like this. What I was also, yes, in previous plans we talk about communities, we talk about homes, we talk about the economy, and I was pleased to see the economy really touching on low-paid jobs as well, because that is a real issue with the difference between the average wage and house prices. But I was also particularly pleased, and this is going back to the motion, is the natural environment that was mentioned, whether it's promoting renewables, engaging with our farmers, waste reduction, biodiversity on council land, woodrow, hedgerow management. Those sort of things have not been in a plan before, and I was particularly pleased to see them, and also a continuing wish for greater engagement with the parishes. There's a lot of good work and volunteering. You know, volunteering was in a lot, and you know, parish councillors are volunteers, and they're taking on increasing burdens all the time. And I'm glad to see that body at town and parish council was recognised. But I commend it to it. It's very, very workable, and it's supported so far. And thank you to everybody who's input on it as well.
Thank you, Councillor Ridges. Councillor Ewings.
Thank you. I have to be honest, I haven't read some of the public responses quite as well as I could have done. Sorry, I can't lean either. I'm still troubled that there is no sort of mention fundamentally of young people within the document. I know other people have brought it up in their public responses, and nothing as yet has been amended. I've brought it up in advisory group meetings that there should be something about young people within it. There is saying we'll improve a play park or a sport facility or whatever, but actually addressing young people, it doesn't do. And the same as the elderly, it doesn't recognise that. All we have is we will support them to stay in their homes for as long as possible. And I do think we need to address a little bit further, expand on it. You know, it's a beautiful document. You know, I've looked at it all in its colour, and it's a fantastic brochure for West Devon. I even discovered Councillor Bridgewater in the photos, which he didn't know about. So, you know, it is a beautiful document in that, but I'm just a bit troubled that young people and the elderly are not really that well mentioned. And also, I'll bring in something really contentious now. Should we now be looking within some of our towns and parishes at doing what some of the Cornwall councils have done and stopping the purchase of second homes within those parishes? And maybe we ought to start looking at something like that, so our young people and young families can afford to live within the areas they've grown up in, not in the vain hope that they may get some social housing if they're really lucky. And I do think maybe as a council, it could be a topic for maybe one of the advisory groups, that should we be beginning to look at this, maybe talk to some of the parishes, St Ives, and I can't think of the others for the minute, that have already done this. What made them finally make the decision? And is it something we should be looking at as well? You know, Chagford have had development. Sorry, I'm just picking on Chagford. Nikki's not here, is she? And, you know, people aspire to stay in Chagford and everything. They've had new developments. The price of properties shot through the roof. And those young families can't afford to stay in those villages. And I do think it is a real shame for having to do that. I know from personal experience, my daughter's been trying to buy a house. She's been forced into Cornwall because she can't afford anything round here. And maybe it is a subject that we ought to actually discuss as a council as to what we can do to help younger people and with employment as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ewings. Councillor Joy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to come back on a couple of those points, if I may, Councillor Ewings, and thank you for raising them. We do, of course, have a lead member and an advisory group for housing, and we have already recognised, I think, the dire need that there is within the borough for suitable and appropriate housing, particularly for our young people. I have already had early conversations with Councillor Ratcliffe and with the Chief Executive about putting wheels in motion for us to have what I hope will be some quite groundbreaking meetings with partners who work in this field, for us to really think about the ways in which we might approach this issue, because I think we have to really come up with something imaginative and different. So there will be a strand of work that evolves around that issue. On the subject of young people and older people specifically, I am slightly loath to single out elements of our residents, because we as a borough council are responsible for all our residents and generally for placemaking, which everybody occupies. We don't hold specific budgets for children's services or for social care. However, what I would say is that in the delivery plan, there are specific references to outdoor space and recreation, playing pitches and parks, and the mental health and well-being support for young people. So that's a start. I don't pretend that's the end or that's where it should end. I would also add that the Chief Executive and the lead member for Wellbeing and I are meeting shortly with the Director of Public Health for Devon on really the back of publishing our plan and running it past Devon County and speaking in particular to that officer. He was then very keen to meet with us and see how we can cooperate and how we can work together in future to bring about elements of our plan, but also perhaps to suggest ways in which we might work in order to improve the health of young people in particular. So those elements are coming, and I think this is the beginning of the next steps. I think the ideas that you put forward are the sort of ideas we need to be looking at and considering, and this will be the role for advisory groups, I think, in future. So thank you for raising that.
Thank you, members. It looks like there's no further debate on that. Mr. White, would you like to take the vote, please?
Thank you, members. Excuse me. All in favour of parts 1 to 5 of the recommendation, please show. That is 28 in favour. Thank you, Madam Matt.
Thank you, Mr. White. We can then move on to item 11, which is the Bridistow and Sawton Neighbourhood Plan. I have great delight in bringing this forward, as Bridistow is my abode, as it were. And I know an awful lot of work has gone into this document, as has the work that goes into any neighbourhood plan, and I congratulate any community that manages to bring it to fruition and to get it through the various hoops that it has to jump through and to get it voted on by the general public. Therefore, members, I have great delight in presenting the Bridistow and Sawton Neighbourhood Plan for your adoption, please, and for it to allow us to make the plan. Do I have a seconder, please? Right, my apologies. Do we have any questions on that report? Councillor Kimber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did notice there are a few references to Highhampton Parish. I presume they'll be deleted before we make the plan.
They will, Councillor. Unfortunately, I did forget to give both my and the officers apologies for that. We did make the amendment to the draft before it came to you. However, it appears that the draft came before members on the agenda instead of the amended document, shall we say. But yes, that will be amended once it goes through. Thank you. In that case, members, I am happy to propose that we make the Bridistow and Sawton neighbourhood plan. Do I have a seconder, please?
That motion.
Thank you, Councillor Southcott. Mr. White, can we take the vote, please? Oh, my. So I'm just keen to get it done, Mr. White. Members, would you like to debate the plan? Councillor Hipsey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wish Sawton and Bristow the best of luck with this plan. It looks a very good plan to me. I would say, however, that in my short time in the council, I have encountered a couple of occasions, at least, especially being a member of the DMNL committee, where developers have seen a little bit dismissive of neighbourhood plans, and I think there's something we need to be on our guard about, because the neighbourhood plans are a very important document for the members of the residents of that neighbourhood, and I'm just hoping that developers will in fact take note of that when it comes to making decisions. Peter, sorry. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber.
I'd just like to comment, it just looks like a wonderful plan, and I think those two parishes are a lot more interesting than I realised, so I shall be visiting them more often.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber. I look forward to welcoming you to the parish. If there's no further debate, sorry, Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pick up on Councillor Hips's comments, because neighbourhood plans are a legal document, and once they are made and adopted, and it does give us a fair bit of resistance to what developers want to do. And I know with one area where there's a neighbourhood plan, it certainly did, help the DM committee in resisting what developers wanted to do. So, it is for all you people who are involved with your parishes, it is important going forward for the future that neighbourhood plans are made, because it's quite a strict legal document which the planning inspectors will take into consideration, and it does give you quite a bit of support in your decision if you want to go against what the developers are proposing to do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Can we go to the vote now, Mr. White?
Thank you very much.
Oh, my apologies. Councillor Yelland. You'd all coming out of the woodwork
yes,
now.
sorry, I was saying Councillor Pearce actually got there before me, so I agree completely with what he said, and I just wanted to add really that until the neighbourhood plan is made, it does have very limited weight. So, as he said, very much encourage towns and parishes to get their neighbourhood plans made, because then they will carry weight at the planning process. And even if developers do choose to ignore them, the planning officers and the committee and the planning inspector won't. So they will form part of the deliberation process in the DM meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Yelland. Last chance. Mr. White, quick, before they change their mind.
Thank you, therefore, members. All in favour, please show. That's 28 in favour. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. White. I can advise members that item 12 has been withdrawn from the agenda. Councillor Cheadle, you're rather keen to get home. Do you have another meeting to get to? In that case, members, if we are all done,